The Arizona desert stretched endlessly under the late afternoon sun, the heat shimmering above the cracked highway like a burning veil. A group of bikers thundered down Route 89, their engines roaring in perfect rhythm. They called themselves the Iron Serpents, not out of fear but brotherhood, men who had traveled together for years, bound by miles, scars, and silence. As they pulled into a lonely gas station miles from the nearest town, dust settled around them like a warning that this place was forgotten by the world. Inside the convenience store, laughter echoed as helmets came off and cold drinks were grabbed. Outside, a rusty white van sat near the edge of the lot, its windows darkened with grime. No one would have noticed it, no one, except a 12-year-old girl hidden inside. Her wrists were tied with cheap rope, her mouth dry from crying she no longer had energy for. For 2 days she had been on the road, stolen from a rest stop in Nevada, promised lies, then threats. She didn't know where she was anymore. She only knew she had to try, now. From the narrow gap between the seats, she heard the bikers' engines shut down, one by one. Deep voices, heavy boots, menacing, she thought at first. Her heart raced. Then she remembered something her teacher had shown their class during a safety lesson. If you can't speak, show the sign. Slowly, carefully, she shifted closer to the van door. Her fingers were numb, but she forced them to move. Outside, Jake, the tallest of the bikers, his beard streaked with gray, was lighting a cigarette when something caught his eye. A faint knock, soft, almost imagined. He paused, scanning the lot. The van door creaked open barely an inch, then stopped. From inside, a small hand appeared. The fingers folded in a slow, deliberate motion, the universal distress signal. Jake's smile vanished. Time seemed to stop. The desert wind carried the smell of fuel and burned rubber, but all Jake could see were those shaking fingers. He took a slow step closer, his instincts screaming. Through the crack, he glimpsed an eye, wide, terrified, bruised skin beneath it. A kid. A damn kid. Without a word, Jake flicked his cigarette away and adjusted his stance, a subtle signal only his crew would notice. One by one, the Iron Serpents fell silent. Laughter died. Jokes stopped mid-sentence. They followed Jake's gaze. Problem. One of them muttered. Jake shook his head slowly. Yeah, he said under his breath. Big one. From inside the van, the girl's arms trembled as she held the sign a second longer, praying these strangers would understand. She had tried signaling before, at a gas stop, at a diner parking lot, but no one had looked twice. Adults turned away, cars drove off. Hope had become fragile, but this time was different. Jake stepped back just enough so the van driver wouldn't notice him staring. His jaw tightened. He had seen a lot in his life. Violence, loss, regret, but nothing hardened his resolve faster than a child in fear. The Iron Serpents didn't need explanations. They had seen the sign. Jake moved first, and the others followed without question. Years on the road had taught the Iron Serpents one rule above all else. When danger shows itself, you act fast but smart. He nodded slightly toward the younger biker near the pumps. Call it in, he murmured, just loud enough to be heard. The man stepped away, phone already in hand, turning his back as if checking messages, while quietly dialing 911. The van's engine suddenly coughed to life. Inside, the kidnapper must have sensed something was wrong. The girl felt it too, the vibration beneath her feet, the fear snapping sharp again. She pulled her hand back just as the door slammed shut. Panic rose in her chest. Not again. Please, not again. But the van didn't move. Two motorcycles rolled forward, slowly, deliberately, positioning themselves in front of the hood. Another biker angled his bike behind the van, blocking any escape. Engines growled low, not loud enough to draw attention, but strong enough to warn. From the store window, a clerk frowned, sensing tension but unsure why. The driver jumped out of the van, eyes wild. You guys got a problem, he snapped, forcing a shaky grin. He was thin, nervous, wearing a sweat-stained jacket despite the heat. Jake stepped closer, calm and steady. Just admiring your ride, he said evenly. His eyes never left the man's hands. Mind telling us why a kid's knocking from inside? The color drained from the man's face. There's no kid, he snapped too quickly. You must be hearing things. Behind Jake, one biker quietly kicked down his stand, ready. Another scanned the road for law enforcement. The desert was silent again, like it was holding its breath. From inside the van, the girl heard raised voices. Fear twisted her stomach, but something else sparked too, hope. She pushed her shoulder against the door, sobbing now, her voice finally breaking free. That sound ended the argument. The kidnapper lunged toward the driver's seat, but he never made it. In one smooth motion, two bikers grabbed him, slamming him against the van. Jake yanked the door open, the rusty hinge screaming as it swung wide. Sunlight flooded in, blinding after days of darkness. "It's okay now," Jake said quickly, slicing the ropes with a pocket knife. His voice softened in a way that surprised even him. The girl collapsed forward, shaking, and he caught her before she hit the ground. He shrugged out of his worn leather jacket and wrapped it around her thin shoulders. Minutes later, sirens wailed in the distance. When the police arrived, the Iron Serpent stepped back, hands visible, letting officers take control. The kidnapper was cuffed and dragged away, shouting excuses that no one believed. Paramedics checked the girl, offering water and gentle words. As she was led toward the ambulance, she turned back. Jake stood with his crew, dust swirling around their boots. They didn't wave. They didn't smile. She lifted her hand and gave a small thumbs up through tears. Jake nodded once. The engines roared back to life as the Iron Serpents rode out, disappearing into the desert. Not heroes in the news, just bikers who didn't think twice when a silent signal asked for help. And they weren't going anywhere.